Good afternoon, everybody. Hello. Hi, my name is James Gillis. Thanks very much for your time. I'm presenting for the first time at E2E, and only for the second time really in front of people face to face with this, and I'll do the best I can. Feel free to ask questions. I will do my best to answer them for you. I'm going to try and keep it as technical as possible and show you as much stuff as I can. But if you have questions, let me know and I'll do my best to answer them. But be gentle with me. It's my first time. So.
Wow.
Cool. Okay, so I've got half an hour. What we're going to do today is to introduce to you the layer 8 product, the technology that we're bringing to market. We are a startup company. I'll give you a quick agenda of what we're going to be doing for the next half an hour. Like I say, I'm taking all the marketing rubbish out of it, so it is going to be as technical as I can make it, I promise. Who we are, what layer 8 is, and something that we call UXR, how it works and how to think of it, what we actually do, what the product actually does, and then we'll get into the mechanics of how the software works, and then we'll show some screenshots and some use cases and what have you. And I'll even try and do some live demo, and we can go into some dashboards and see some stuff, if all the live demo stuff works on the day. Okay, so first of all, very, very briefly, who Log4 is. We're a software vendor that started really in kind of April this year. We've got offices in Jersey in the UK, which is where I'm from, Germany, North America and Canada, as you can see there. The inventor of the technology of layer 8 was actually a guy called Jeremy Barker, our CTO. He has been working in benchmarking for around 30 years, so he knows benchmarking, performance analytics and all the rest of it. So he's got extensive experience in this field, and he's the gentleman that's actually invented layer 8, or what we call layer 8. The technology for what we do inside layer 8 is global paints and pending, and hopefully that's going to go through shortly. And it's worth noting that what we do one thing, but we try and do it as well as we can. It's very difficult to do what we're doing, which is why it's taken so long for the product to be developed, which is why it's been many years in development. In terms of where we are as a company with virtualization and the rest of it, as of last month, we got our VMware and Microsoft certifications for virtualization, so we're really pleased about that. It's been a good trip this year so far already. So, what is layer 8? What is a layer 8? Well, what we're saying is just that we are gathering user experience metrics or generating user experience data based on what the user's doing inside the Windows UI. So the point being is that all sorts of metrics that customers have access to with maybe perf1 data and so-called machine data, they don't necessarily tell the full story. So you can go after an application or process that's running or what have you, and you can try and figure out what's going on. The user interface itself, the Windows UI, had not been touched. This is where Jeremy went after it. So what we're doing is we are looking at the Windows user interface, and we're able to see different applications that users are clicking on, which applications are in focus, which applications are not in focus, how long an application is not only in focus, but when it's being used, so keyboard input, mouse input, that sort of thing. And we also understand when an application goes into a wait state, the application is no longer going to be accepting inputs from the UI because the application is doing something. It's locked or it's hung or something like that. And depending on the ecosystem of the operating system, that desktop, which might be a physical desktop, a laptop, a VDI session, whatever it might be, those wait states add up to delays in the user being able to do stuff because they're sat here and they're maybe getting a spinning donut, they're getting an hourglass, or things seem sluggish. So what we do is our technology sits there and it looks at what the UI is doing, and we know when a user's clicked on something, how long they've clicked on it for, whether they're actually using it or not, and when they switch to another process. So what we say is that from the beginning, from when they log on, control alt password enter, to the minute they go off, we see what they do. So all that does is it gives us, again, keep the marketing stuff really, really small, but we have something called a user experience rating where we can provide a single metric, a single number expressed as a percentage of the user's active time that they're active with certain applications divided by the time that they're spent waiting for the application to respond or be available to them. The point being is that it comes out with a number, and the smaller that number, the more responsive their system is and the better time they're having. Essentially, we've got a metric of user happiness, user experience based on the UI. So, time for a demo, straight away. To kind of get that concept across, what I'm going to do is, I'll stop the presentation there. We've got a layer 8 agent running on this laptop. It's essentially running in a debug mode, like a real-time dashboard. That is something that the users would never see, the administrators wouldn't even really see it. I'm going to show you today. This is layer 8 running in the background, so the users wouldn't see it. Every time I do something, we'll click around to another application, another process, or I say, right, I'm going to go and do this, going to go and do that, or what have you. Every time I do one of those tasks, I'm going to generate a new event. Okay? And it's that event that, with the timing that we collate, that lets us create all sorts of reporting data. So to clarify, the layer 8 solution is a data set that we're generating. Okay, so we're not grabbing logs from anywhere, we're not looking at registry details and the rest of it. We are producing a data set that no one else has got. So we're really pleased with that.
Mind if I ask a question?
Of course.
So where is it saving that data? Is it saving it locally on an endpoint, or is it set in a central point?
So initially it will write that locally in an area, then it will send it onto a reporting server. So we use it, we visualize our data with Splunk. So we ship with the product a Splunk app that you can install, and we give you a load of dashboards to get you started with. So what you're investing in is the data source, which you can do whatever you like with, and you can plug it into any reporting system that you might have access to, but we also give you a Splunk app if you just want to go and get it going within 10 minutes. Okay, so what is UXR? So again, I've kind of explained this very briefly as verbally. This is a very, very crude example of what UXR would be. If you were using Outlook for 60 minutes and for some disastrous reason Outlook was locked up for 15 of those minutes, then you would have a UXR on the Outlook process for that user of 25%. I mean, that would never happen in real life, but it's a really extreme example to kind of get the concept across. So because everything we're doing is measuring time down to the millisecond, we can provide a UXR value against any of the other fields that we're generating within that data set. So it could be UXR for a process, it could be a user, it could be a domain, it could be a group of machines, it could be anything we want to aggregate together, which then lets you start spinning up all sorts of what-if scenarios. How can I see how this area of business is performing? How can I work out how operational efficiencies can be improved here? How can I work out whether or not an OS migration or a hardware migration has actually worked? What if we make a change on the network here to improve some access to storage, which gives us more throughput? Rather than just a feeling and asking the users, is that better? You've got another metric to go after that isn't personal data, isn't machine data, because it's based on what the user is seeing in the UI.
Can I ask you another question?
Yes.
So the reason why the Outlook lockup might be existing is not perhaps because of Outlook, it's because of some other reasons. It might be CPU.
Absolutely.
So is there a way of correlating multiple metrics into one number, one dashboard number?
Sure. So we're not going to do root cause analysis. We don't go after the root cause. We're not going to be looking inside an application stack and tell you what's going on there. We'll complement any existing metrics that you may have, and I'll show something towards the end of the presentation that discusses correlation of addition metrics. This is the last marketing slide, by the way, but I put it up here for a couple of reasons. I don't know how it's going to display on the screen. It's not too bad. When we talk to a customer, we're not an operational efficiency product, we're not a compliance product, not a security product, but we span all three, so we're kind of a known category product. So we have to speak to a customer and ask them where their pain points are, because it's a different story each time. at the beginning, talking to a customer, the pain point might be different to what it might turn into when they realise what they can get out of the data. It took me ages to get Joe to blink as well. Don't know if he actually still blinking now. So we get the name layer 8 that comes from sitting on the UI. The idea is to play on words. It sits on top of the standard RSI model. The point being is that anything that you've measured before, anything you've got access to before, is based on these 7 layers. We don't touch those. We kind of sit on the front. It's been coined as the last inch, the last mile, if you like. Okay, so I say we do one thing, we do it well. It actually breaks down into 7 different things. So if you want to kind of know, well, what's our features, what do we actually do? We are measuring these metrics specifically. So we measure application active time, wait time, log-on delays when the user's logging on to their Windows desktop. We have browser plugins for all 3 major browsers so that we can see how long, down to the millisecond, how long a user is focused on a particular tab. They may have 15 tabs open. Facebook here, business line applications there. Facebook is ticking away all day long. Is there a problem? You don't know. The web proxy is not going to tell you. We can tell you yes. Bob was on Facebook for 12.5 minutes during his lunch hour because that's the amount of time that Bob had the Facebook tab in focus. We also get window titles. So anything that's a dialog box that pops up, like an error message or an Office document, you get that window title. You never really notice them that much until you start seeing them. So anything that's a window title you can go after and you can search. So that has applications that we haven't even thought of yet. And that goes with alerts and box events. So what is it? What is the software? Well, it's an agent which sits on a Windows endpoint or the point of delivery for an application. So that might be physical desktop, a laptop, VDI workstation, application server, wherever the compute is for the applications that the users are using. We have something called the User Experience Meter Agent, or UXMTR as you'll hear me refer to it. And we have the forwarder service. So this is the thing that grabs the data from the metering agent, packages up and then sends it onto the reporting server, whatever that might be in whatever format it might be. And then we have the optional browser extensions. Yes, please.
Can I ask you a question now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm a little unsure. You say where this agent runs, because if you need to measure the user experience, then it should definitely be on the endpoint, because you could easily get something that's running smoothly on the Citrix terminal server, but on VDI machine, but your endpoint is not showing because it's a problem. So would you put it on the for instance in a setup scenario, would you put it on the setup server or on the Windows 7 machine that you are accessing the setup server with?
Okay, so in that scenario, if the application is being delivered via Citrix, you would have the agent on the Citrix server, because any delays or problems with that application that revolves around the operating system, the ecosystem that app is running from, that's where you would have the agent reside. You could have it on the endpoint, but if the application isn't actually running from within the operating system, there's a process, an application, a background process or a user process on that endpoint, then you wouldn't have the agent there. So that's why we say we put the agent wherever the point of delivery for the application is. So customers will run it on VDI and it will sit there on the actual endpoint. Then you've got other customers that just do XenApp, for example, and they'll just run it on the XenApp service because that's where the XE is running from. We supply software as standard.
Looking onto that question.
Yep.
I can see why you are saying that, because if you have a bad connection or a use round trip, are you going to see it because you are measuring in VDI?
Right.
So that won't show up if I understand it correctly.
So yes, so you're talking about kind of latency to the application being delivered over a distance. So yes, we're not going to see that. We're only going to see how the application is running on the server or wherever that application is actually being executed from.
The output, if a user calls it slow, at least you can check, okay, how was it on the server side, and if that's all green light, then we have to go into the other monitoring stuff to see, okay, what's...
Because that's the thing, sometimes you're going to have complaints, the system's slow, and where do you see it?
From that, for example. Then you can combine it, so you have the agent in VDI, And if you have managed endpoints, and you install it over there also, then can you
Well, it's,
combine data
yeah, I
from
mean,
both systems or?
all of our data, what we say, we can reside in centrally in the Splunk database, and you can do whatever you like with it. So if you wanted to correlate that based on time and the endpoint in question versus any other metric you've got, then that's all open to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's possible. In fact, I'll show some correlations on that data towards the end. Okay. A quick note: we don't do any nasty stuff to get the information that we've got. We don't invade the user privacy. We're not screen scraping. We're not key logging. We're not hooking into the kernel. There's no other software dependencies. It's a single agent, 32-bit, 64-bit across all platforms. And you can be up and running in about 10 minutes. So you can either install from in a pilot install from a batch installer that we give you that just installs the MSIs, or you can deploy via group policy or CCM. So whatever deployment methodology is suitable for you, we can support. We've got customers doing all sorts of different things. What's the impact? The resource requirement. So yes, we are another agent that's going to sit on the endpoint. It's one of the reasons why it's taking why it's taking so long for Layer 8 to be developed, is because it's very hard to do what we're doing without having a negative impact on the user experience, the kind of user experience product that has a negative impact. So we're 4 to 8 meg of RAM, 25 meg footprint, 0.1 to 1% CPU if it's doing something, and around 3 to 5 megabytes of memory consumed on the endpoint. The 2 processors running essentially. You have the user experience meter, which will run under the user context when they log on, and then you'll have a service that runs under the local system account that sends the data to the reporting server, the DCAC as we call it.
You say that the first process runs on the user context.
Yes.
Then if I log on in a setup environment with 20 users, then I have 20 times that process.
Correct. Yep. So you'll get the same measurements for each user, but it's within its own context. Okay. If the machine's off the network as well, we'll buffer the events locally. So when I say an event, I'm going to show you what an event looks like in a moment. An event is the string of data that we capture as part of that click I showed you at the beginning there with that real-time dashboard. A normal user will generate anywhere between several hundred and a few thousand events per day, just doing normal stuff. They come in the morning and they work for 8 hours, well, they work for 3.5 hours, but they're in the office for 8 hours. But they will generate several hundred events. Why is that interesting? Why is it important? It's important because if you're looking for context about what's going on, and you compare that to maybe other monitoring systems, where you have something running on a server in the corner, that server might do something interesting twice a day. And it fires up an alert and you go, oh, okay, that's fine, and you just close that off. You're going to get thousands and thousands and thousands of events for what the users are doing. And it's that richness with the data set that allows you to do all sorts of clever things with the reporting. So the eye candy screenshot here, it's an invisible agent that the user doesn't see. So how do we visualize that before we get into some of the dashboards here? We're doing for time, 12 minutes, okay. So what you're looking at here is a raw event as would be shown inside Splunk. So what this is showing is that there's a user here, a user 186 something. This is anonymized data. We can anonymize the data at the source. Has been active with, has a PowerPoint in focus for 2.5 seconds on a document called Presentation on Microsoft PowerPoint. And they did it on a machine that wasn't a laptop, but using Windows 7 Professional, with a computer name of Checkpoint. You get the idea. Thousands and thousands of these, you're going to have some interesting reporting. So how do we visualize the data? So the point here is that there are loads of other tools in the market that are going to go really, really deep down, really, really narrow, and give you some really low-level reporting. That's not us. We want to sit at a mile high and be able to give you this organizational overview. What's going on across 5,000 machines? What's going on across these 400 machines, these 400 users at the same time? So what we do with our dashboards is to make them give you the ability to consume this data at scale, okay, and get this insight at scale. So for example, what we're looking at here is a snippet of one of the dashboards that you would get in Splunk that is showing you 2 weeks worth of data for all of the events and their relative UXR. So remember, this is the active time versus the wait time. And by seeing the different spikes here, we can work out, okay, what was the wait time, what was the usage time, how busy were we on a particular day. Here's the weekend, for example. This is obviously a Monday. In fact, there's a Monday there. That's probably a bank holiday because there's not many people in. And then we can see whether the trend is getting worse, getting better. But there's our UXR as we go through the day for all processes, for all users across all applications at all times. There's zero config. You deploy the agent, you run the dashboards. There's nothing else that you need to do to get it up and running. So this is why we say you can get to reports within 10 minutes. This snippet here of this dashboard, a comparison, you can say, right, I want to take this operating system versus this operating system. I want to compare the week before and the week after OS migration. Has it worked? What's the impact? What is it? I could find out 500 users and go, how's the new build? And you're not going to get the truth. You're never going to be able to get that information back. So what we've got here is an example of a month's worth of data between Windows XP and Windows 7 that was migrated across. And we've highlighted here, we've called out the UXR, and we can see that the new Windows 7 machines appear to be faster. The users are happier. This is a metric of user happiness based on what they're getting in the UI. The user doesn't care about CPU, memory, disk space, IOPS. The user wants to get their work done. So that's why we're looking at the UI. So by having these figures available, you can justify whether or not it's worth upgrading whatever it might be, or migrating particular hardware, or making a change on the network, or proving to the business that the investment they've made was worth it. This exact dashboard is being used at the moment in real time. It gets refreshed every 2 minutes for the current 24 hours. At the top, the customer's got their VDI infrastructure of 700 desktops, and at the bottom here, they've got their legacy terminal servers, which is around 50 of them. 5 minutes. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. I'm going to flick through a couple of other bits and pieces. Application usage. We can tell you down to the millisecond how long people are using particular applications for. So it doesn't matter that Word was running in the background, or we're talking about particular opens. We can say that Word was being used by this number of people for exactly this amount of time. So if you've got licensing questions for a particular application that is governed by time or concurrent use, then we can go into all that sort of detail. Again, with the web usage and concurrent web usage, we're able to tell you exactly how long a user has been on a particular website and the URL they're on, not the other 60 feeds of garbage that came in to load that web page. We're talking about the top level URL that they went to. So rather than looking at a web proxy and not being able to make any sense of it, we've got much more accurate web reporting. So for example, again, it's a snippet of one of the dashboards here. We can show you the concurrent usage of two particular websites. At the peak here, we have 3 users on Facebook at the same time. And we have an internal website, there's like maybe an intranet or a SharePoint server or something, i.e. doesn't go through a proxy, it's internal. You're never going to get that data, usually, without going through a proxy. So we can see, we've just delivered this new SharePoint server, are people using it? How many people are hitting it? Do we have to configure all sorts of other web stats to be able to work out what's going on with that newly deployed server? Well, we can tell exactly how many people are hitting it, again, without any further configuration.
James, is it able to tell which tab has got the focus? So a lot of users will open Facebook and then navigate to another tab, new Facebook,
yep.
Tab 2. Is it able to work out that kind of priority of tabs in the browser?
So because there's only one tab ever in focus, we are only measuring the tab that's in focus. As soon as the other one is no longer in focus, we stop counting immediately. So we get a question, what about background processes? Are you looking at that? No, not at all. Yes?
Am I able to filter to one particular specific user and see maybe if or how many app crashes he has? Because if he tells me this specific app is crashing 5 times every day or something like that, can I check that?
So you can see the UXR of a particular application that would have crashed, and that goes into a wait state, and the user can no longer use it, then we're counting that waiting time. So if we look at a particular user, we can see all the processes they've run for a particular day, and we can then split that by executable. And if there's one process that then goes up with a big spike for the UXR, it will stand out like a sore thumb. We'll be able to see that and go, yes, we can see that at 3 o'clock you had a wait state of 5.5 minutes for your Outlook client. We believe you, there was a problem there. We won't tell you why Outlook went into that wait state, but we can verify that there was a problem, which is often the challenge. To be verified that we have a problem, to then go after it and focus on
You
it.
can also see if the process ends and when it starts or has been started again, something like that. So when the exit is crashing.
So, okay, so if the user starts a process, then it will have a focus immediately, and we would see that. So yes, we would see essentially that process start because they'd started it and had focus, and we'd start counting at that point. If the user closes the process or moves to another one, then we stop counting. We won't see what the app is then doing at that point because it's not contributing to the user experience they're having at that time. We're only interested in what the user is looking at that point. Yep, hi sir.
Is there some kind of anonymization of the user name and so on?
Yes, we can anonymise the username, the domain name, the computer name, and we can switch off window titles and everything. So we understand that there's various European countries that have legislation in place where they can't show that Bob was on this machine and was using. So yes, we can anonymise at source, so that data will never be in the clear.
Do you distinguish or differentiate between normal application close and application fault? So the process crashes immediately?
Okay, so that's going into the realms of application performance monitoring and analysing what the app is doing. We don't look at that, we're only looking at what's presented to the UI.
So that means that if Outlook crashes, then you cannot see if this was a normal close or if it was an app crash.
If the app is crashing,
Yeah.
and if it's crashing and it's not actually closing as a process, then it will be in a wait state. We will see that wait state in terms of time going up, so it will become more and more obvious that that application is in a hung state. If the process has actually ended, then there's nothing to count anyway.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, then if the process actually closes and ends, then it would be more obvious to one that's hung, because if it's in a hung state.
So process immediately ends if the application itself does not catch the exception which has happened.
Correct, yeah, we want to see that. I don't know if you can see that up on the screen, but we have something called there's about 10 or 15 different dashboards you can go through and perform all sorts of discovery tasks. I think I'm going to run out of time for a live demo of dashboards, but I'm here for the next two days. But what I did want to kind of show here is that we have something called a session drill down, where you can take the events in sequence, in chronological order that a user goes through to understand what they were doing and what was going on, again, without invading their privacy. So again, without screen scraping, no password sniffing, keyboard logging, all the rest of it. We can see here that at this timestamp, at 1:45 in the afternoon, Bob logged onto a VDI workstation on a domain called ZenPipe, onto a computer called ZenUser001 with his logged into his desktop. There's an ICO seamless host agent there. And that took 29 seconds. Then he was on the start menu for 1.9 seconds. Then he spent 17.5 seconds in Internet Explorer, opening up Windows Explorer down to the home page, logging into MSN, then connecting to Dropbox, and then logging into Dropbox and being in the home directory. Then he chose to upload a file. He uploaded 2 files, one was his CV, and then a few minutes later he uploaded a contacts database. This is kind of conceptual to show you the things that we can get with the window title. With just the window title, you've got an idea of what was going on. Because window titles cannot be manipulated by the user, and they don't know to. So then he logged off. So Bob linked a company database and then he went home. In real terms, what that is we've got different kind of use cases where we've had a customer speak to us and say, somebody renamed a domain controller yesterday, we had no idea who did it, no one's owning up to it. What do you think? So I went through the process of renaming a machine, a Windows machine, to see what would come up, and sure enough, just the act of doing the steps that you need to go through to rename a machine, reboot and all the rest of it, you can look at the session drill down and you can go, okay, with 90%, 95% confidence, you can say, well, that's who did it and that's what they did. We don't want to be Big Brother, we're not claiming to be a security company or security product, but that's a good example that shows bringing all those elements of the data together, where to get this concept across that user will generate 1,500 events in a day, and here's what we can find out about what was going on for good and for bad. That's a pretty dynamite example of some of the things that we can do.
Can you do reporting on license? Do you do license management reporting as well?
So not necessarily license management reporting. In terms of touching on SAM, we can tell you, so for example, we could group up all your Office applications and tell you exactly how much Office has been used across how many machines, right down to a split second. And I could, in fact, I'm going to get kicked off in it, but I can demo that on here for a month's worth of data in 30 seconds.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can do that sort of thing.
We've got one more question here, James.
Would it be possible to do an analysis of workflows to make them more efficient?
Oh, what's that?
Workflow, use workflows?
Yep.
Try to analyze what they do to actually help them?
Absolutely. So with the implications for training, we partner with a couple of technology partners, and one of the things that they've been looking at with the data source is to create Gantt charts of what users are doing, having given them a task and says, right, here's the end result we want, go off and do it. And they were actually able to work out and profile the user's behaviour based on what they did and who was successful and who wasn't. Based on that analysis, you can say, well, there's a training requirement here, or maybe we need to adjust something there.
So people clicking randomly through ribbons in Word looking for a specific function would show up?
No. We're not going to see what's inside the application. We're going to say that we're going to see that you were active with that process for X amount of time. So we'll see the window title, but not inside the application.
So there's no kind of data concerns though, because if we've got customers with really kind of sensitive credit card data, that kind of thing, you're not going to be picking stuff like that.
There's a whole slide on what we don't do. So apart from getting the window title, which we can switch off if you don't want it on, and you get the process name or what have you, we don't see anything inside the application. There's no sensitive data like that.
Sorry, can we just cut it off there? I'm sure James will be more than happy enough to answer any questions outside of the room. It's just the next section, so okay? Yep. Thank you very much, James.